Well, it's Friday, September 11th. It's kind of hard to believe that, well, for this year, that we're already 9 months into the year and 6 months in shutdown with all the COVID chaos and all the craziness that's been going on. But not only that, it's been 19 years since the terrorist attacks of 9/11, 2001. It's pretty amazing that much time has gone by. This morning, I have my Bible open to the place where we are going through in what's called the listening plan. So if you've never checked out the listening plan, go to thelisteningplan.com. And this is something that I created about 5 years ago, where if you subscribe or register your email address, you get an email every single weekday, and you can go through the scriptures through the New Testament, just listening to them or reading them. There's a link that'll come to your inbox every single morning where you can click on it and go read it at blueletterbible.com, or you can listen to the audio being read to you. But this morning, we're in Colossians chapter 4. Been working our way through Colossians this week. And Paul, in that passage, as he is closing out his letter to the church at Colossae, he gives this very important exhortation, which has a very similar verse in another book, which was written right around the same time. So his exhortation is found in verse 5. Walk in wisdom toward those that are outside, redeeming the time. And the corollary to this is found in Ephesians chapter 5, where Paul in that passage also says that we need to walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. And those words, redeeming the time, I actually used that passage in a message that I preached online for the church. I think it was just last week. That passage, redeeming the time, I'm pretty sure it's the New International Version, it says, making the most of every opportunity. And certainly that's what the Lord wants us to be doing until we end this life, or until he retrieves us to come be with him for eternity. We need to be making the most of every opportunity. We need to be redeeming the time, using our time wisely. And we need to, as Jesus said, occupy until he comes. And that occupy means doing business on behalf of him and for his kingdom and for his namesake. And we need to do whatever we do. If you look back in chapter 3 of Colossians, it says, heartily as unto the Lord and not towards men. So we are serving the Lord. But in doing that, we need to use wisdom, Paul says. We need to walk in wisdom. We need to walk circumspectly. That idea in Ephesians of walking circumspectly is walking with our eyes wide open, our ears attentive, and we are aware of all the different things that are going on. And not only are we aware of what's going on, but we should be seeking the mind and heart and spirit of the Lord by reading through the scriptures, through prayer, so that we can be aware of what's going on in a spiritual sense, not just in a physical sense. In the Old Testament, we're told about one of the tribes of Israel, the people of the tribe of Issachar, who they understood the times. And as a result of understanding the times, they had an awareness of what the people ought to do, how they should respond to the things that were going on. And so to walk in wisdom is to have knowledge of what's going on, but wisdom is knowing what to do with what you know. It's knowing how to respond to the things that are going on. And the only way that you, as a follower of Jesus, will know how to respond after the Spirit or after the Lord is if you understand as best as you possibly can through getting to know God and his word, the mind and the heart of the Lord. This is why it is so important for us to read through the scriptures on our own and to study them and not only rely upon the teaching of other people. I think it's really, really good to get teaching from other people. I listen to a lot of teaching from other people, but I do a lot of my own study of the scriptures. And my encouragement to you would be, if you want to be walking circumspectly, if you want to be walking in wisdom, knowing how to respond to the various things that happen in your workplace environment, knowing how to respond to the various things that happen in your family or in your community or on your school campus, wherever you are, then you need to get to know the mind and the heart of God through the scriptures, so that when you're encountered with a awkward circumstance, a difficult situation, you know what you ought to do. I know when I was growing up through high school, maybe some of you might remember 20 plus years ago, those bracelets that everybody's wearing, the WWJD, what would Jesus do bracelets. And they got kind of gimmicky and cliche for a while, but the sentiment is still a really important one in the circumstance that you're going through right now, whether it's with work or school or family or whatever it may be. How would Jesus respond to that, and how would he act in that situation? The only way that you will know how that is if you get to know God, his mind, his heart, his will through the scriptures. Most of what is God's will is revealed, I believe, in the scriptures. People are tied up with, I know in 21 years of ministry, probably the number one question I've received from people is, what's God's will for my life? What does God want me to do in this given circumstance? And we should, at least in part, have some inclination about how he would have us respond because we study through the scriptures. So get a reading plan through the Bible. If it takes you 4 years to read through the Bible, take 4 years to read through the Bible. Sometimes people get kind of bound up because they start in January, like a lot of people do, January 1st, and they've got this ambitious goal. I'm going to read through the Bible in a year, and that means I'm going to read like 5 chapters in the Old Testament and a psalm every day and 2 chapters in the New Testament. I'm going to go through the whole Bible multiple times in a year. And within a few weeks, they are behind and bogged down and kind of bummed out over the whole thing. My encouragement is take a chapter a day, if that's what it takes you to get through the scriptures, and go through Old Testament, New Testament. Do it faithfully, and you'll find that you start to understand more and more of how God works and what he expects and what is his will. And then you can fulfill this command more effectively to walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, towards believers in the church, but also those people in the community. And just kind of a quick side note on that, some people wonder, how come our church and a lot of churches, most churches, are still not completely open in the midst of everything that's going on with COVID-19? Part of it is we're trying to walk in wisdom towards those who are outside. We're trying to walk as the Lord would have us to walk in reaching people through the long game, not just through the short game. I was talking with someone the other day where, their church is open and they've grown so much during this period of time. And that's well and good. And I praise the Lord for what God is doing through some of these churches that are open right now. But in the midst of that, it's a short view. It's not the long view. And so we want to walk in wisdom toward those who are outside. I know that might be a challenging thing, but it's something that we need to consider. And Paul goes on to say, let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt. In that, I have to confess that sometimes I can be a little too salty when it comes to the way that I interact with people, in that, I'm quick to make my own judgment and to say my piece. And so sometimes I got to pull that back and be a little bit gracious. And again, that's seeking to have the mind and heart of the Lord so that you know how to answer each one. So my encouragement to you today, if you're going to walk in wisdom towards those who are outside, the best way for you to be able to do that, to know how to walk in any given situation, is to get to know the mind and heart of God by reading and studying through the scriptures. So I hope that that's an encouragement to you today. Read through Colossians chapter 4. I think it might be an encouraging passage.